So for this one, we are finding, the question says find by inspecting a real root of a given cubic equation, and then with the aid of a quadratic formula, find the other two roots. So this is very similar to the first two that I did, but I want you to be more equipped, so that is why I'm taking at least 3 examples. So if you haven't seen my previous videos, you have to look at the introduction first, because it will lead you to understand this one. I will not be going into details here. So the first thing we need to do is to find a common factor for x cubed minus 1. We need to divide this and break it down to an x squared term. Then we can use the quadratic formula to finish the calculation. So we need a common factor here. Actually, 1 will work, because when we substitute 1 here, 1 to power 3 minus 1 will give us 0. So a common factor means that we find a value of x that when we substitute here, the whole equation will give us what? 0. And we do that by inspection. So you just inspect. But when you look at it, it's very simple. There's no need for you to think too much. So this is my calculator. I can put in 1 raised to the power 3 minus 1. Now when you look at this, the result is giving us what? 0. So since the result is 0, it means 1 is a factor of what? The equation. So when x is equal to 1, the function is 0. So now we can find the divisor by just bringing this here and equating the whole result to 0. So we have x minus 1 is equal to 0. Just cross this one. So now this becomes our divisor. So this is an equation, a binomial equation, that is now our divisor. So we use this to divide this. Now this is how we do it. Write out your divisor, x minus 1, put in what? The dividend. So we have x to power 3. Now remember that there are some missing terms here, and usually when I am solving this, all my examples, I introduce the missing terms using 0 so that you understand what I am doing. So I'll bring them plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. So these are the missing terms. The x term is missing and the x squared term is also what? Missing. So we use 0 to represent it. So now we can start the division one by one. Pick the x cubed term. This is how you do the division. Pick the x cubed term, divide it by the x, the value you have here. It depends on whatever equation you are working with. These are very simple. There are others that we have a coefficient here to be more than 1. The coefficient can also be here. You just divide with both the coefficients. So we have x cubed over x will give us x squared. We are getting x squared here. So now pick the x squared and write it here. X squared times this will give us what? X cubed. Use the same x squared to multiply the negative one. We have minus what? X squared. Now subtract this result from this. Everything we have here inside the box is called the dividend, and everything we have outside here is called the what? Divisor. So underline this one. Now use this to this is how you do the subtraction. Use this to multiply this, add it to this. So this time this is negative x cubed plus x cubed will give us 0. If you like, write it. I won't put that down. And this time this will give us x squared. X squared plus the 0 term will give us what? The same x squared. Now there is no other term for x, so we are done there. Now the result, you are left with 0x and negative 1, because we are done with this and this. Bring them down here. So you have plus 0x minus 1. Now from here, we start all over again. X squared divided by x will give us x. So we have plus x there. X times x will give us x squared. X times -1, we are having minus x. So we can then subtract this from the dividend, from the new dividend. Do not subtract this from this. Now this is your new dividend. So use this and subtract it from here. Negative times this will give us negative x squared, plus this will give us 0. No need to put it down. Then we move on to negative times this will give us positive x plus x. Added to the 0 term here, we are having the same what? X. Now there is no constant here, so we are done. We now add this one to this side. We are left with x minus 1. Now we have to divide again until we finish. Now this x divided by this will give us 1. So we have plus 1. 1 times this is giving us what? x, and 1 times negative 1 we are having minus 1. Subtract this result from the new dividend. So this time this plus this is giving us 0, and then this time this plus the negative 1 here is giving us what? 0. Negative times negative is positive, plus this is what? 0. So the remainder is what? 0. Now, the rule of division of polynomial says that after you have finished everything, take the quotient. So the quotient is x squared plus x plus 1. Take the quotient, multiply it by the divisor, and equate it to the dividend, the main or the original dividend, which is x cubed minus 1. X cubed minus 1. So that is what I'll do. So dividend should be equal to quotient, which I have here, times divisor plus remainder. Remainder here was 0, so that is what I've put in there. Now when you expand this, the result should give you this. And when you equate only this side to 0, you get x is equal to 1. That is the first root. Then we have x squared plus 1 is also equal to 0. When we equate x squared plus 1 to 0, we can find the root of the quadratic equation here, and that one will give us 2 roots. 2 roots plus this one will give us 3 roots. That will be the solutions for x cubed minus 1. So now we are left with this one to solve. So when you look at this, I have taken the quotient and the divisor and I equated it to 0. When I do that, I can find the value of x here. X minus 1 is equal to 0. The first root is x is equal to 1. We even got it at the beginning. That was what we did by inspection. X is equal to 1. So now we need to find the next. Now for x squared plus x plus 1, it's a quadratic equation. So we need to use the quadratic formula to find the root. So let's consider this and let's use the quadratic formula. Now when you look at this, I have compared the result with ax squared plus bx plus c to make it very simple for you. Then I can compare the coefficients. The coefficient of x squared term is what? 1. So we have a is equal to 1. Then the coefficient here is also 1. B is equal to 1. Then the constant is 1. C is equal to what? 1. So now we substitute this result into the quadratic formula. So we had b to be 1, a to be 1, c to be 1. Let's substitute it here. You must keep this formula in mind. So we have minus 1 plus or minus root of 1 square minus 4 into 1. C is already 1, all divided by 2 into 1. So that is what we have here. Then we can continue this. We have neg 1 plus or minus, this is 1 minus 4, all dividing 2. So we have x equals minus 1 plus or minus root. When we add this, we are getting minus 3, all dividing 2. Then I always explain this, that the negative square root you have here is the same as x equal to neg 1 plus or minus root of 3 times root of negative 1, all dividing 2. You can jump this step, there is no need. But remember that root of negative 1 is the same as what? I. And this is what we call the imaginary unit. So we substitute it here. So therefore we have x equals neg 1 plus or minus root of 3. Now substitute root of neg 1 with what? I. So let's put it here. Do not put this under the square root. So we have 2. So now we have our root to be equal to x equals negative 1 over 2 plus or minus root 3 I over 2. So the first root is x equals neg 1 out of 2 plus root 3i over 2. And then the second one is neg 1 out of 2 minus I root 3 over 2. So these are the two roots, these two complex roots that we have gotten. And so let me name this one x2 and x3. Then I will go back and name this one x1. So the root of x raised to the power 3 minus 1 equal to 0 are, the first one we got x1 is equal to 1. So we got 1. the second one we got this neg1 out of 2 plus root 3i all over 2. And then the third one we got neg1 out of 2 minus I root 3 over 2. So these are the roots. You can see that it's a cubic function, so the roots are 3, 1, 2, and 3. You can change this to decimal if you want. So that is the end of this one. Thank you very much for joining me here, and I want you to subscribe to this channel. Please share this video with those who may need it. Give me a feedback if these videos have been so helpful to you. If there is something that you want me to clarify, you can draw my attention in the comment box. I will take a look at it on my free time. And finally, if you have any issues and things like this, you can let me see these questions. I'll go through them and then find a way to solve them for you. So I hope to be seeing you here often. It's bye for now.